Do you remember what it felt like to be the one? Maybe it was the way your second grade teacher looked at you when you finished the workbook 40 minutes before everyone else. Maybe it was the quiet pride in your parents' voices when they told the neighbors you were just so mature for your age. You were the gifted one, the natural, the one with the limitless potential. Back then, it felt like a superpower. But now? Now you're 30 or 40 or 25, and that potential feels less like a superpower and more like a debt you can't quite repay. You're sitting at your desk, staring at a half-finished project, paralyzed by the thought that if it isn't perfect, it's a failure. You're exhausted, yet you feel like you aren't doing enough. You're successful by most objective standards, yet you feel like a fraud who's one mistake away from being found out. Welcome to the Gifted Kid to Anxious Adult pipeline. If you've spent your adulthood wondering why things that seem easy for others feel heavy for you, or why you can't seem to turn off the relentless inner critic, you aren't broken. You're navigating a very specific psychological blueprint that was laid down when you were too young to know any better. Today, we're going to look under the hood. We're going to talk about why your brain is wired for high-alert anxiety, the biological cost of being precocious, and how to finally decouple your worth from your output. The core problem isn't that you were smart. The problem is that giftedness wasn't treated as a trait you had, it was treated as who you were. When a child is labeled gifted, we accidentally perform a bit of psychological surgery on them. We take their performance and we fuse it to their identity. Most children learn through a process of trial and error. They fall, they get up, they try again. But for the gifted kid, the narrative is different. You were told you were good because you didn't have to try. Success was effortless. This creates what psychologists call a fixed mindset. If success comes from being naturally talented, then the moment you encounter something difficult, something that requires grit, repetition, or, heaven forbid, failure, your brain doesn't see it as a challenge. It sees it as an identity crisis. If I have to try hard, does that mean I'm no longer gifted? And if I'm not gifted, who am I? To understand why this leads to anxiety, we have to look at how your brain processes reward and threat. 1. The dopamine trap. When you're a child praised for your intelligence, your brain gets a hit of dopamine, the feel-good neurotransmitter associated with results, not process. You didn't get high on the joy of learning, you got high on the A+. As an adult, this translates into a productivity addiction. You feel okay as long as you're achieving, but the moment you stop, when you're on vacation or sick or just having an off day, your dopamine levels plummet and the anxiety of the void sets in. You don't know how to exist without producing. 2. The amygdala and the safety of excellence. For many gifted children, being the smart one was their way of staying safe. Maybe you were the emotional anchor for your parents, or maybe being the best was the only way you felt seen. In these cases, your amygdala, the brain's smoke detector, began to associate being average with being invisible or in danger. When you're an anxious adult today, that's your amygdala firing off a false alarm. It thinks that if you turn in a B-quality report, the world will end. It's a survival response for a threat that no longer exists. 3. Asynchronous development. There is a biological reality to giftedness called asynchronous development. Often, a gifted child's intellectual abilities develop much faster than their emotional regulation skills. You had the hardware to understand complex global problems or the nuances of adult relationships at age 10, but you had the software of a 10-year-old's emotional resilience. This creates a gap where you can think your way into a crisis, but you don't yet have the emotional tools to feel your way out of it. We carry that gap into adulthood. So, how do we stop the leak? How do we take that gifted energy and turn it into something sustainable? It's not about becoming less smart, it's about becoming more human. Tool 1. The C+ experiment. If you're an overachiever, your baseline is 110%. You believe that 100% is the minimum and 90% is a catastrophic failure. To break the fixed mindset, you need to engage in strategic mediocrity. Choose one low-stakes task this week. Maybe it's an email to a friend, or the way you fold your laundry, or a minor administrative task at work. Purposefully do it at a C+ level. Don't proofread the email. Leave the laundry slightly wrinkled. Notice what happens. Does the world end? Do people stop loving you? Usually the answer is no. This recalibrates your nervous system to understand that your value is not tied to the perfection of your output. Tool 2. Transition from outcome praise to process praise. You need to become your own reparenting coach. Start narrating your day differently. Instead of saying, "I'm so glad I finished that project, I'm so smart," say, "I'm proud of myself for sitting at my desk for an hour even though I felt bored and frustrated." You're focusing on the effort, the process, not the achievement, the outcome. You're teaching your brain that the win is the work, not the trophy. Tool 3. The multiple self portfolio. Gifted kids often have identity monoculture. They are only one thing, the smart one. You need to diversify your identity portfolio. Who are you when you're not being useful? Are you the person who loves the smell of rain? Are you a terrible but enthusiastic tennis player? Are you a loyal friend? Write down 5 things about yourself that have absolutely nothing to do with your career, your IQ, or your productivity. When the anxious adult starts screaming because a project is failing, look at that list. That person, the rain lover, the friend, is still safe. It is important to pause here and recognize that the gifted kid label often masks other neurodivergent traits. For many people, giftedness was actually ADHD or autism that was overlooked because they were high achieving. This is often called twice exceptional or 2E. If you find that your anxiety is coupled with extreme sensory sensitivity, lights are too bright, clothes are too itchy, periods of hyperfocus followed by total burnout, a feeling that you're masking or performing a character in social situations, then your anxious adult pipeline might require a different set of tools, specifically ones focused on neuro-affirming care and executive function support. Don't just mindset your way through a brain that is physically wired differently. If this resonates, it may be worth exploring a professional evaluation for ADHD or ASD. I want to speak directly to that inner gifted kid for a moment. You've been carrying a very heavy backpack for a very long time. You've been trying to prove that you were worth the investment. You've been trying to live up to a version of yourself that was created by teachers and parents before you even knew who you were. I want to give you permission to be average. Average isn't a dirty word. It's the space where we're allowed to rest. It's the space where we're allowed to be messy, to be slow, and to be just okay. Your potential is not a debt. It's not something you owe to the world. Your life is an experience. You are allowed to just be, not because you're smart, not because you're talented, but because you are here. If we summarize everything we've talked about today, it comes down to this. The pipeline is built on the lie that your worth is a variable based on your performance, but the truth is your worth is a constant. Key takeaways. Reclaim your effort. Value the struggle more than the result. Practice mediocrity. Prove to your nervous system that imperfect is safe. Broaden your identity. You are a human being, not a human doing. If this resonated with you, I've put together a deprogramming guide for the gifted kid, placeholder, link in the description. If you want to dive deeper into why your brain specifically seeks out high-intensity stress, check out my other video, Why You Crave Stress Even When You Hate It, placeholder, end screen link. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being you. Not the gifted you, not the successful you, just you. I'll see you in the next one.